From Saturday, we'll leave this here and go live now to the Iowa State Fair for Republican presidential candidate Scott Walker. He's being introduced now. Live coverage of Road to the White House here on C-SPAN.
Is Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. The governor, of course, is seeking the Republican nomination for president. He was first elected to public office as a Wisconsin state legislature. Then he was elected Milwaukee County executive. He was first elected as governor in 2010, survived a recall, becoming the first governor in U.S. history to do so, and then was reelected in 2014. Governor Walker, welcome to the Register Soapbox.
Thanks, good morning. Good to see you. Let's first off begin on Veterans Day with the right approach. Freedom, endowed by our Creator, defined by our Constitution, but defended each and every day by the men and women who proudly wear the uniform of these United States. Let's give a big round of applause. If you're a veteran, would you wave so we can thank you? It's Veterans Day today at the fair, but it should be Veterans Day every day. Thank you for your service. It's great to be at the fair. It's great to be in Iowa. We're going to keep coming back. We're doing the full Grassley, all 99 counties. We know that Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst and Terry Branstad and Kim Reynolds have done that. We're going to do that as well. I'm here today with my wife and one of my sons, Matt. We're having a great time. It's perfect weather today, huh? This is just right. Not too hot, not too cold. But you know, when you think about those veterans, we just acknowledge America is a can-do kind of country. Unfortunately, we got a government in Washington that can't quite seem to get the job done, or as I call it, 68 square miles surrounded by reality. You know, that's what we're facing right now. And I got to tell you, these days, I'm not just frustrated with the president and with the Democrats in Washington. I'm frustrated with the Republican leadership in Washington as well. You see, they told us during the last election that if we just elected a Republican Senate, the leadership out there would put a bill to repeal Obamacare on the desk of the president. It's August. We're still waiting for that measure. We need to have some leadership in Washington. I think part of the reason why we see some of the things we see across this country is because people want to send a message. I talk to voters all the time in this state and around the country who said we want to send a message to Republican leaders in Washington that when you make promises on the campaign trail, we want to see it, whether it's repealing Obamacare or standing up against illegal immigration. You know, if it wasn't for me and 24 other governors who stood up and took the president to task and took him to court, that would have gone through. The president who said 22 times he couldn't do what he did last November when it came to illegal immigration. It took me and 24 other Republican governors to change that. We need leaders in Washington who will stand up against the president and say, no, enough is enough. America wants you to stand up for your promises. You know, for me, that's something I'm right at home with, because we didn't just take on the big government union bosses in Wisconsin. We didn't just take on the Democrats. We took on our own party establishment. You see, in 2010 in my state, I ran for governor because after my wife and I thought about it, talked about it, prayed about it, we knew, as tough as it is to win in a state like Wisconsin. Republican hasn't carried Wisconsin for president since 1984. That's back when Ronald Reagan was last reelected. And we knew that we had to do something because we saw the mess that was happening in our state, and for our children, for our sons, Matt and Alex, we wanted to do something better. You see, we inherited a $3.6 billion budget deficit, and we fixed it. We cut taxes by $2 billion today. Property taxes are lower today than they were before we took office. We defunded Planned Parenthood more than 4 years ago, long before those videos out there. We took on welfare reform and said if you're able to work as an adult in our state, you got to be enrolled in job training and be able to pass a drug test before you get a welfare check in the state of Wisconsin. We want to make it easy to vote but hard to cheat. We require a photo ID to vote in the state of Wisconsin. We did all these common sense conservative reforms, and you know what? We got a great field of Republican candidates, probably one of the best fields since 1980. But there's a difference amongst all the candidates out there, and I'm here today to ask you for your vote, to ask for you to caucus with us, because what makes us different is there's a lot of good fighters out there, but they have yet to win those fights in Washington. There's a lot of good winners out there, people who've won elections, but have yet to be in the fight over the last couple years. There's only one candidate in this race who has fought and won and got results, even results in a blue state like Wisconsin, and did it without compromising our common sense conservative principles. If you want someone who can win and get results and not compromise, I'm the candidate to send to the White House. You see, we didn't just take on 100,000 protesters, some of which you've come here today. But you know what? They didn't intimidate us in the Capitol. They didn't intimidate us in the Capitol because in America, they have every right to speak. But they can't drown out the voices of the millions of people who elected me in Wisconsin. And if you give me the chance as the president, I will not allow that fear to drown out the voices of the many in this country. You see, the truth is things are better in Wisconsin because of our reforms. And if we can fix a state like Wisconsin, we can fix America. It's not too late. We can fix America. It wasn't too late in a blue state like Wisconsin. It's not too late to fix America going forward. You see, going forward, we can push true reform, taking power out of Washington and putting it into the hands of the hardworking taxpayers all across this great country and state after state. We need to take the power out of Washington. We need to send the power back to our state houses and back to our people. That's what we did. We took the power out of the hands of the big government special interests and put it back into the hands of the hardworking taxpayers. If we can do it over there, we can do it in Washington. And you know, unlike Hillary Clinton, who thinks you measure success in government by how many people are dependent on the government, we understand that true freedom and prosperity, they don't come from the mighty hand of the government. They come from empowering people to live their own lives and control their own destinies through the dignity that is born of work. I got that early in life. You know, as a kid until I was in third grade, I lived in Plainfield, Iowa, up in northeastern Iowa, and then we moved to Delavan, a small town in south central Wisconsin. My first job was washing dishes at the Countryside Restaurant. And then we moved up to the big time. We started flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. Funny part about it is Paul Ryan was flipping them in Janesville. I was flipping them in Delavan. The only difference is Paul was told he had to flip hamburgers in the back because he didn't have the interpersonal skills to work the front cash register. But I learned from those jobs and from my parents. My dad was a small-town preacher at the First Baptist Church. My mom was a part-time secretary. My grandparents were farmers who didn't have indoor plumbing until my mom went up to junior high school. My dad's dad was a machinist for 42 years at Barbara Colvin. I didn't inherit fame or fortune from my family. What I got was the belief that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you can do and be anything you want. That's the American dream. That is the American spirit, and that is what we're going to fight for going forward. You see, that's how we grow the economy. Not with more Washington. Hillary Clinton wants to grow Washington. Last year, 6 of the 10 wealthiest counties in America, you know where they were? In and around Washington, D.C. We understand that people create jobs, not the government, and it's time to get the government out of our lives once and for all. We start by repealing Obamacare and putting patients and families back in charge of their health care going forward. Next, we rein in the out-of-control federal regulations, be it the EPA that are killing our small businesses and our family farmers. We rein in the EPA, and going forward, we pull in all the other regulations that are like a wet blanket on the nation's economy so we can get this economy really working again. We put in place an all-of-the-above energy policy that says We're going to use the abundance of what God has given us here in America and on this continent. United approved the Keystone Pipeline on the very first day to give us one more tool to fuel the nation's economy. Fourth, to grow the economy, we get people the education and skills that they need to succeed in careers that pay far more than the minimum wage. I'm proud to say in my state our education reforms worked, despite what the naysayers said. Despite what they said, the facts are the facts. And 4 years ago they said they'd be devastated. And yet today graduation rates are up, third grade reading scores are up, ACT scores are second best in the country. That's because we put power back in the hands of the people, and the people you elect to be on your school boards. We need that nationally. No Common Core, no nationwide school board. We need control of schools at the local and the state level, not in Washington. And the fifth big thing to grow the economy is to lower the tax burden and reform the tax code on individuals as well as on job creators out there. You see, it's simple. I'm proud to say we've cut taxes in our first 4 years by more than $2 billion. We lowered them on individuals, on farmers, on manufacturers, on property owners. Property taxes today are lower than before we took office. We need real tax relief in Washington to get the economy going forward. And so we reform our government, we grow our economy. This is a great test with the protesters, because you think you want someone tough. There's a lot of people that talk tough. I'm the only one who stood up to 100,000 protesters, stood up to the big union bosses. I'll stand up for Washington, regardless of party, and fight for the American people. So the big government special interest, he wants to know about a warning. The warning is, if you want a balanced budget, if you want tax relief for hardworking people, if you want better schools, if you want a better life for farmers and manufacturers and others, then that's the warning. The left doesn't want me to be your nominee because they know I don't just talk, I actually deliver on my promises. I will do that as your next president going forward. And Lord knows, not just on the economy, but when it comes to safety, we need a president who has the courage to stand up to anyone in the world and do what is necessary to protect our children and our grandchildren. If I'm the president, I will take the fight to ISIS instead of waiting until the fight comes to us. Again, unintimidated. I am not intimidated by you, sir, or anyone else out there. I will fight for the American people over and over and over and over again. You want someone who's tested? I'm right here. You can see it. This is what happened in Wisconsin. We will not back down. We will do what is necessary to defend the American people going forward. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have failed this country. They are leading from behind. We need a president who will stand up, just like Ronald Reagan did. A governor from California who stood up and rebuilt our military, stood up for our allies, stood against our enemies, and stood for strong American values. If you give me the chance, I will not be intimidated, just like I wasn't intimidated here or anywhere else. This is why I love coming to Iowa, because you lay it right out there. There's no filter, there's no hiding behind the national media. It's happening right here and right now, and if that's what you want out of your next president, someone who will not back down, then I ask for your vote, I ask for your caucus for us. I appreciate it, and I'll try and take a couple questions. Question was, what are we going to do about climate change? I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm proud to say that your campsite, I learned a long time ago, your campsite should be cleaner when you leave than when you found it. So for my children, I want to make sure we have clean air, clean land, clean water, but I also know we need to balance not only a sustainable environment with a sustainable economy. The two go hand in hand. That's exactly what we did in Wisconsin, and we still stand up for a good environment while standing up for a strong economy, because I want my kids to inherit good air, good land, and good water, but I also want them to have a job. Way back there. The question was, will you or will you not abolish the Federal Department of Education? I will take, when I talk about reform, money and power from Washington, whether it's in Medicaid, transportation, education, and in education, I should say, and take it from Washington and send those dollars back here to Des Moines and ultimately to your school boards all across America, because I think you can spend your money better at the local level. It's more effective, more efficient, and more accountable at the local level. Sure, man. Thank you. The question was about college and college education and affordability. I'm proud to say in my state, first time ever, 4 years in a row, we froze tuition at all the University of Wisconsin campuses. Thank you. In fact, it was interesting to be criticized the other day by Hillary Clinton, because while I was freezing tuition for 4 years, first time in the state's history, Hillary Clinton was charging $225,000 a speech to college campuses, which suggests to me that she was actually raising the cost while we were keeping costs down. What we need to do nationally is put in place incentives for colleges and universities who have students who get financial assistance to actually keep their tuition lower. The problem is we poured for decades more money into student loans. We poured more money into student loans, and we actually saw the rate of inflation go up far greater, sometimes 3 to 4 times higher than the national rate of inflation. So all we did was push cost up even more. Having 2 sons in college, I know how important it is to make sure we keep the cost of college education down to begin with, so that we make it affordable, to have, not just to have loans, but affordable in the first place. That's part of our plan going forward. Sure, right here. We've done that effectively in Wisconsin. It's something we want to carry on around the rest of the country. We put a focus both in funding and in terms of the programs we've run in the state of Wisconsin when it comes to all centers. Thanks. Sure, right back there.
You failed your state! How you gonna run it? The United States!
Question was about Social Security. When it comes to 3 of the big drivers in the federal government, there's Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Medicaid I'd send back to the states, where again it's more effective, more efficient, more accountable. State leaders are better off at doing that than the federal folks are, and you could get more bang for the buck in terms of giving states that power. When it comes to Medicare, and particularly Social Security, for people retirement age or near retirement age, I wouldn't touch it. For my generation and younger, we're going to have to put in place reforms, I think, going forward. We'll lay that out in the coming weeks as we lay out. Tomorrow I'm going to put out a specific Obamacare plan, some others along the way, but we need to put in place reforms for my generation and younger so that we can continue to support not only those currently on Social Security, but those near retirement going forward. So, go way back there. You standing up there, kind of the... Question was about immigration. I said months and months and months ago on Fox News Sunday, I was asked about this with Chris Wallace. I said I spent time listening to governors in border states and other elected officials. I've talked to people across the country, and I ultimately said my plan then is the same as today. We need to secure the border. That means more than talking about it. We actually need to secure the border in a way that's far greater than just immigration. I've been to the border. I've seen it. It is a national disgrace in terms of the threat to public safety, to national security, and even to the sovereignty of this country. So secure the border both with infrastructure, the wall itself, but also with the personnel and the technology we need to make sure that's safe. I was in Israel early this year. They built a 500-mile fence, and they have it staffed, and it's lowered terrorist attacks in that region by about 90+%. We need to do the same along our border. We're obviously got a bigger border, about 4 times that, but we're a country that should be able to uphold that. So we need to secure the border. We need to enforce the laws. We need to enforce the laws, which means no sanctuary cities. A sanctuary city, you don't get to do a sanctuary city and be outside of the realm outside of the realm of the federal law. You need to have no sanctuary cities in this country. And I do not believe in amnesty. I think there's a lot of people who've come in. My great-great-grandfather came as an immigrant from South Central Wales. His father was a miner. He became a blacksmith and eventually moved his way to the Midwest. But like so many others, they came in and followed the legal path. I don't believe in amnesty, and I think going forward, we need to have a legal immigration system that gives priority to American working families to focus on their jobs and their wages in a way that will improve the American economy. So, go back over there, man. Sure. Question was about the renewable fuel standard. In my state, for example, when I ran, we don't have an ethanol mandate. I was asked about an ethanol mandate. I didn't support it. I don't, to the last question then, I don't support it. She just gave me the time's up comment, so I'll answer your question. When I came here for an ag summit earlier this year, I pointed out that it's already in place, as you know. The subsidy for, the tax subsidy is gone, but the renewable fuel standard is still in place. My argument is it's here right now. You've got a whole industry based on that. You need to support that. I would like to see all the different standards and mandates bunched together and phased out over time, which is why I said over the next couple of years, because I believe if you get market access, which would be the goal over that time, you don't need the standard. Market access is really the issue. I've talked to farmers in this state across the country. It's getting that choice at the pump. In my state, we've actually already put it in, gone forward with trying to do the grants for making sure that mom and pa gas stations can actually switch that so you can have a blender there. You get market access, you don't need the standard. It's all about getting access to the marketplace and then let consumers make the choice. So she gave me the time's up. Again, thanks very much for coming out. God bless you. Thanks to all of our veterans.
Well, Governor Scott Walker, Republican of Wisconsin, talking about his Iowa roots as a child as he takes his shot here at the Iowa State Fair. He was speaking, as have many others, at the Des Moines Register's so-called candidate Soapbox. This is a long-standing tradition where each presidential hopeful gets about 20 minutes or so to talk to voters there. The governor also taking lots of questions, and we want to get your reaction to what the governor has had to say this morning, as well as the race in general, the visits to Iowa in general. We have several phone lines for you. Republicans, your number is 202-748-8921. Democrats, 748-8920. We have a line for independent callers this morning, 202-748-8922, and a separate special line just for Iowa voters. It's 202-748-8923. And we have Patricia on the line now from Shokin, New York. Patricia's a Democrat. Hello there.
Hi there.
Good morning.
I first want to say that C-SPAN is doing a wonderful job at the Iowa Fair.
Appreciate it.
And I'm really enjoying it. I honestly could not hear or understand Scott Walker. He talked so fast and maybe too close to the mic, but it was very difficult for me to listen to him, and I did want to hear what he had to say about a lot of things.
Patricia, was there anything you picked up on?
Yes, there was one thing, and that was Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and I think that it's very scary that they want to threaten that.
He also said that he'll put out a detailed plan on health care, the president's health care law. He said he'll do that tomorrow. What does that make you think?
Well, I'm opposed to getting rid of Obamacare. I think it's helped many, many people who couldn't afford health care and who were rejected by the insurers. So I'm hoping that Obamacare does get straightened out and that they get the kinks out of it.
Okay, we're going to go to Mike next, but want to point out something Patricia noted, that it was a little bit difficult to hear, but if you were listening, you might have heard some booing, some protesting in the crowd. There was one story in the Wisconsin paper, the Journal Sentinel out of Milwaukee, that said when Governor Walker steps onto a soapbox today, he can count on at least one thing, and that's people will protest. It's a fact of life in the Walker presidential campaign, as it is in the Walker governorship. Protesters are almost almost as much a part of his entourage as the staffers and reporters who trail him around the country. It's a relationship, they write, that both sides are invested in. Walker is an irresistible magnet for protesters thanks to his record in Wisconsin, and their animus toward the governor enhances his warrior image among GOP primary voters. The article goes on to say there are risks for both sides here, and we did notice that Jennifer Jacobs tweeted this morning that people are starving, said some of the protesters. What about jobs? Cuts to education? They are shameful. Just part of the color at the event with Governor Walker. But let's get to Mike now. Jersey City, Jersey, Independent. Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Doing well.
How you doing?
Go ahead, please.
I've been watching your coverage for the past few days. And I got to say, the candidate who impressed me the most as an independent was Martin O'Malley.
How so?
So the candidate who impressed me the most was Martin O'Malley.
Right,
so
but what did he?
Detailed.
Okay.
No, he talked about not only what he wanted to do, but how he had the experience in getting the results, whether it's keeping education costs low or passing the DREAM Act to deal with immigration or investing in infrastructure. I know a lot of the other folks out there are saying some good things, but most of them are legislators. They talk a lot on the Democratic side, and they don't get the results. And on the Republican side, it just seems, it's Donald Trump and whoever can bash the immigrants the most. So.
What kind of chance do you think Governor O'Malley has against Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders?
Well, it's early, I mean, I see he's picking up a bit in the polls, and, Iowa and New Hampshire are fickle. They're not going to coordinate people. I mean, at this point in 04, John Kerry wasn't doing well in the polls. So, you can see people get hot, and thanks to coverage from guys like you really see how people in Iowa and New Hampshire love that grassroots politics, and O'Malley seems to be investing in it quite a bit. So You never know.
Mike from Jersey City, thanks for weighing in. Dennis is calling from Richmond, Virginia. Dennis is a Republican. Welcome to the conversation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being able to be on there. Anyhow, what I want to know is they're trying to get rid of all of our flags. They're messing with the Confederate flag, which I didn't believe in slavery either. But also now they want to go again and do our Wounded Warriors flag. The POW flag and everything, the black and white one. Well, when are they going to go try to take our American flag away?
All right, that was Dennis there. Let's go to Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Democrat, what's your name?
Zeb Wright.
Go right ahead. What would you like to say about Governor Walker or the Iowa visits in general?
What I like to say about the Iowa visits is that many of these candidates in their speeches constantly attack Hillary Clinton about her server. Now they talking about what could have been or what may have happened, but there is no accusation that anything did in fact happen. So it bothers me about spending all our tax dollars, like on guided committee, investigating on what may have happened, when there has never been an accusation of anything in fact having happened. She served 6 years, she been out a year, and there's still nothing to say saying that anyone got anything from her service. So it irks me that they are spending all our tax dollars paying off their sponsors to, like Bush did in Florida when he had his agriculture department coming around saying our fruit trees are bad, giving us a voucher to Walmart and paying for that out of the state funds.
All right, caller, gonna let you go. Let some other voices get in here. Tell you about the schedule. It's 11:30 Eastern time now. Coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern, it's Carly Fiorina at the Iowa State Fair, and then at 4 p.m. it's Senator Lindsey Graham. So by the end of the day, we will have heard from Governor Walker and Carly Fiorina. Lindsey Graham will air all of them again at 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight in case you miss any of those speeches. We have a lot more coming up this week as well. Tomorrow it's Marco Rubio and John Kasich. So we'll continue to be all over this Iowa State Fair in Des Moines as the candidates continue to speak. Scott Walker is struggling for the Iowa prize, writes Politico this morning. They write that when Scott Walker returns Monday to the fair, he'll be in an uncomfortable position, watching competitors in the crowded GOP field threaten his hold on a state he needs to win to survive. After 7 months as the clear favorite to win this first-in-the-nation caucus state, the governor is suddenly sinking in the polls, overtaken by the summer's massive anti-establishment wave and at risk of losing his grip. Quote, he's lost a lot of momentum here because he did not convert that early momentum into committed caucus goers. Now he's got to restart his engine here, and that's not easy to do. This comes from Doug Gross, a GOP operative who supported Mitt Romney 4 years ago and has yet to commit this year. The silver lining, writes Politico, is that the race is still winnable for Walker because other top-tier candidates have yet to ignite. They're excluding Donald Trump from all of that, but they're saying the other candidates have yet to ignite just yet. Let's hear from Edward, Winchester. What state you calling from?
Winchester, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, independent caller. Go ahead, Edward.
Yes, usually Scott Walker is very well spoken. I suspect it was an audio problem he had with the microphone.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
But he's a good candidate with good Midwestern manners. In overall, I think the media is part of the establishment, and they're really out to get two candidates, Trump and Clinton. And from Fox News all the way to MSNBC, all they do is try to disparage those two candidates and build up the candidates that are doing less well in the polls. And the email scandal, I agree with the prior caller, is bogus, and she is being treated uniquely different from other people that have had similar positions or lower positions in the government. I think if you dug into other servers and how other people conduct their email sending and receiving, you'd find similar issues.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to James now in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. James is a Democrat. Welcome, James.
Thank you for taking my call. I love your show.
Go ahead.
Two things. I just like to say that from when I've watched this whole Iowa Soapbox thing you've been showing, Bernie Sanders is the guy who's making the most sense. He's the guy who's telling the truth like it is.
What is he saying?
Some people might not want to hear it.
What is he saying that's, well, sorry to interrupt, what is he saying that's ringing true to you?
Everything from college affordability. If we can pay for our kids to go to high school for free, why can't we pay for them to go to college for free? Why is high school free and college costs $50,000 to $100,000? That's one. Two, the whole income inequality thing. But I'd like to comment on one other thing. Mm-hmm. And that is, I'm a disabled American, and they're saying Social Security is in danger, and Social Security disability is in danger, and they're facing a 20% cut to the disability part of Social Security coming up, and none of the candidates are addressing that. I'm just getting my wheelchair. I have 11 discs fused to my spine. Not everybody on disability is a faker. Not everybody on this. I worked 40 years swinging a hammer building mansions for these rich people to live in. And part of the deal was I paid all my FICA taxes and Social Security taxes. And if I had the bad fortune to become disabled, then they made a deal with me, and I fulfilled my part of the deal. And now they're not going to fulfill theirs. And the Republicans are for this. They want to go after the weakest and the disabled and the poorest in the country. And that's all they've ever wanted to do. So I would like your show, your channel, which I love, to do a show about what's the Republican Party in general and the government as a whole is getting ready to do to the disabled in America. It's shameless. It's a disgrace.
That was James calling from Massachusetts. Al is on the Republican line now from Connecticut. It's Glastonbury, Connecticut. Hey, Al.
Oh, hi.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I had a terrible time trying to understand what Scott Walker was saying. Maybe he could use a different mic or something. I also would like to say that I hope Carla gets picked as a vice presidential candidate. I think that would give the Republicans a very strong ticket. And especially if Hillary's in the picture, we need a woman on our ticket.
Thanks for calling, Al. On the lighter side here, Washington Post reported over the weekend about the Iowa State Fair. It sort of fits Scott Walker's calorie-heavy, all-American diet, as they call it. For many presidential candidates, a trip to the fair this week means scheduling a diet skip day or saving up calories to enjoy regional cuisine, such as greasy pork chops and deep-fried Snickers bars, or just taking bites instead of finishing the whole thing. But not so for Scott Walker, who will be at the fair today. The 47-year-old Republican regularly eats like this pretty much every day on the campaign trail, documenting his caloric consumption on social media like a wrestler trying to bulk up for the season. Just a bit more of the flavor, pardon the expression there, from Iowa today. Last call for this segment. It's Sue from Des Moines. Sue, you're an Iowa voter there. What did you hear from Governor Walker? What are you hearing in general from these candidates? Who do you like?
I am hearing a lot from family in Wisconsin. Two things. When you talk about cutting taxes, those people got a $1 property tax a $1 property tax refund from the governor. Second of all, when you can sign legislation to cut $250 million out of the largest economic engine in the state, which is the University of Wisconsin system, and turn around barely a month later and sign up the taxpayers of Wisconsin for a $250 million debt for the new Bucks Arena, that isn't exactly being honest with the public. I believe that one of the things that unintimidated Scott Walker likes to talk about is how he took on the protesters around the state capitol. Now, mind you, this is from family that was there. I witnessed this morning at the Iowa State Fair, Mr. Unintimidated allowing a protester right in front of him to be attacked by his own supporters. And he did nothing to stop it. He did nothing to hold those people accountable whatsoever. It was obvious as we were trying to see the front of the stage that the person who held up a sign was being attacked by Scott Walker's own people and his own supporters, which are a bunch of gaggling people that trail around behind him like a bunch of groupies. This guy is a paper tiger. He does not tell the truth when he's out in front of cameras, and it's very unusual that he would even take questions today because he's virtually we came to see him because you cannot get access to him, and he is virtually invisible in the state of Wisconsin. Iowa needs to wake up unless they want to become another Coke state like the state of Wisconsin. We are shaking in our boots. That's the same thing that happened in Wisconsin, but the Coke money is happening in Iowa. Thank you.
That was Sue. Lots of observations here over these last 15 minutes. If you didn't get in now, you can try again later. So Carly Fiorina speaks today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and after her speech, we'll take some more of your calls. And then it's Lindsey Graham today, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All three of these speeches, Governor Walker, Carly Fiorina, Lindsey Graham, will re-air at 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. So that's it for now, and we'll see you in a couple of hours for more phone calls.
I'm the leading state sponsor of terrorism.